Hey YouTubers, this is John Doe reporting from my Fortress of Solitude, and tonight, this is my first attempt in brewing some worm tea. In the real world, a lot of people ask me, how do you deal with your job and the stresses that come with it? And I tell you, I look forward to coming home, especially in the spring and summer. I get in my garden and I start, taking out my stresses out there, and I tell you, I love it. But tonight, I'm trying to brew this worm tea. Of course, we don't want to confuse the worm tea with the leachette. This is going to be the fluid that accumulates at the bottom of your worm bins. Possibly it could be toxic. I've been using this on an aloe plant that I inherited. I started out with 1 pot of aloe, and with adding this leachette, I've got 7 pots of aloe. It's caused explosive growth. So if that's caused that much growth, what is this worm tea going to do? There's a lot of recipes online, a lot of complicated recipes. I've kind of stuck with a simple one. Added about 3 or 4 cups of worm castings. It could have been more, it's approximate. Of course, my bucket has rainwater in it. You don't want to use your chlorinated municipal water because it's going to defeat your purpose. Basically, you're trying to grow these microorganisms and get them to multiply. You also add some molasses. Of course, from my research, you want to use the non-sulfur molasses. Also, last but not least, is the most important part of this process is the air pump. This is just an aquarium air pump. Got off eBay, didn't pay a lot of money for it. Basically, it's the 2 tubes. I have the air stones at the bottom, which causes your bubbles. One of them is floating kind of at the top, and the other one, I tied a little rock to it, so it's at the bottom. So I've got some bubbles at the top, and I got bubbles coming from the bottom. Being that this is the fall of the year and it's a little bit cooler, I have a little heater in here. I like to keep a heater in here with my worms so it keeps them nice and happy. I like to keep this room about 60 degrees. Somewhere, 50, 60 degrees. Keep the worms comfortable. The colder it gets, they get a little bit slower and they don't eat as much. I want them to eat as much as they can so I can produce these worm castings. I did my research on the worm tea, and I'm just trying to find a way to stretch these worm castings out because they're so hard to come by. Our society is based around instant gratification. I could go to Walmart or a garden store, slap my money down on the cashier's table, and get a box of fertilizers and be done with it. But I want to grow the biggest, I want to grow the tastiest vegetables I can, and I think this is going to be the way to do it. This is my first video, but I'm hoping this will be the first of several. I like to do a lot of experimenting with it, during the gardening season. Hopefully this summer I can plant some rows, and maybe I can do 1 row of, fertilizer, commercial fertilizer, and then the next row of these worm tea and worm castings and see what grows better. But anyway, this is John Doe, and I'm signing out. Hope you guys have a good evening. If you have any comments, please post them at the bottom. Thank you.